Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is James Greene. I want to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us this morning and this afternoon. We greatly appreciate your time. Today's webinar, Let's Chat About Chatbots, is presented by PolSource and Salesforce. I want to let you all know that we have muted all of the participants, but we are eager for your questions via the chat, so please feel free to share those throughout today's presentation. Dave, if you could move us to the next slide, that'd be great. Excellent. My name is James Greene. I'm a senior account executive here for PolSource. And joining me today are Kyra Wonderland, Salesforce account executive, as well as Dave McCall, our senior director of Service Cloud practice and bot expert from PolSource. Our agenda for today's webinar will serve as a practical guide to bots and will provide you with information on how and where to get started with your bots, where to focus your bot and other considerations, tips and advice on your readiness before you embark on your bot journey. And we have a great customer bot success story to share that relates back to a large staffing agency. So very thankful for everybody taking the time and very appreciative of you joining us this morning. And we'll pass it over to Kyra to take us from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, James. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. As you all know, we are in the midst of an unprecedented crisis that is not only taking a toll on public health, but it's also causing serious economic consequences around the globe. Those macroeconomic hardships are really affecting every business, but in different ways. And this is prompting companies to think about how to do business differently in order to survive. This is where the Salesforce platform comes in. As many of you know, we are more than just a CRM. We are a complete business platform for your entire company, from IT to marketing to sales and support, helping you create unique and personalized experiences for your customers across every single one of those touch points. We know that you all in the service and support orgs have a tough job already with new channels to engage with your customers in, and therefore evolving customer expectations every day. So staying on top of that technology and trend seems to never end. And that level of difficulty is increased tenfold today with keeping not only your employees safe and healthy and productive, you're still trying to maintain or improve the customer experience you offered before COVID-19. So today, we're here to really zero in on an aspect of the Salesforce Service Cloud platform, specifically as it pertains to bots and how AI could give you new and effective tools to help optimize your teams further from anywhere, providing automation that helps you scale your increased requests. Give your teams the tools and intelligence they need to be even smarter once they engage with a customer, regardless of channel. So as you heard, with me today is stellar implementation partner PolSource, not only because of their vast experience with each of our clouds, but also because of their experience in building and deploying bots. They're a boutique and agile firm with an intelligent and highly certified team, as you can see from the credentials on the slide. All of this translates into their well-earned CSAT score of over 9.9. You'll also see later in our discussion how product directors here at Salesforce also rely on PolSource because of both their expertise and project approach. So without further ado, let's get to the good stuff. And allow me to introduce Dave McCall, the Service Cloud Director from PolSource.
Well, thank you, Kyra. That was a very nice introduction. I appreciate it. So as Kyra says, my name is Dave McCall, and I run our Service Cloud practice here at PolSource. We've had the privilege of building bots for a number of different clients, and so we're going to share with you some of our experience, some of the things that we've learned along the way to help you get started building your bots. We build bots for a number of reasons for different customers, but generally it rolls up to a handful of different things. We want to increase deflection. We want to move people to this lower cost channel and give customers some of that intelligence that's baked into the platform so that we can keep our agents working on things that are high value. Secondarily, we want to learn what customers want. One of the things that's kind of interesting about a chatbot is customers are just going to ask whatever questions they feel like they think should be answered. And so we get to learn what they think we should be able to answer with the chatbot. So we get a lot of insight out of a chatbot. And then lastly, we really just want to decrease friction to getting the customer the right answer. So we're trying to get there quickly. We want them to know the answer that they're looking for, and we want them to get that without necessarily even having to wait for an agent to talk to them. So where do we get started? How do we start this whole thing? Well, a couple places I would start if I were brand new to Einstein bots is, first and foremost, we've got an app exchange package. We were privileged again as PolSource to be able to partner with Salesforce to build their Contact Us app exchange package. It is a starter pack for anyone who wants to build a bot that takes in new contacts. And we have that bot and a retail bot that we built in conjunction with Salesforce. Secondarily, we have our Einstein bot trailhead, or not ours, Salesforce has an Einstein bot trailhead. And when you go into that trailhead, you'll be able to build from scratch, start to finish, a bot that actually works. So even if you're going to work with a partner like PolSource to build out your bot, and I hope you will, when you do that, you will, even with that, after you've done the trailhead, you'll have a great experience in understanding the terminology of a bot, how a bot works, and what it takes to build a bot. We can certainly help accelerate that along the way as well. So as we continue on the where to start, there's 3 things that we think you should map out almost before you talk to anybody about your bot. The first one is, what are you trying to do? What's your goal? We always tell everyone, and I think if you walk away with almost no other information from this webinar, this is the most important tip I'll give you. Start simple. Start with one thing, do that one thing well, and then iterate with your bot as you go. So start simple, but are you looking for self-service? Are you trying to help route to the right agent? Are you trying to help deflect order status calls? Are you trying to give people repair status? Are you trying to get them on with a field service technician? What is it that you're trying to accomplish with your bot? That's a great place to start. Secondarily, as part of that question, you're going to figure out who it is that is going to be interacting with your bot. Is this a bot for customers, for your partners, for your technician? Is this an internal bot that's going to help employees? That's going to help determine a lot of how you engage. And then third, do you have the data, and where is the data to interact with the bot? Is this data that's going to come out of your Salesforce implementation, the objects that are in there today? Are you going to share cases? Are you going to share knowledge? Or is it going to come from a back-end system of some kind? Is it going to come from your order management system? Or is it going to come from somewhere else? Or are we going to get data out of some complete third-party system, something that's not owned by you or within your Salesforce implementation? Once we kind of have all those pieces and parts laid out on the table, we can start assembling a bot and thinking about how we want that bot to work. So some of the things that we think are worth considering are your bot's personality. Who is your bot? We love, with a lot of customers, we've worked to do a name your bot little contest within the organization. So we've heard some really amazing ones. At Gap, their bot's name is Genie. At Advanced Auto Parts, their bot's name is Autobot. So, which I think are amazing names, both of them. But even the bot starts to form a little bit of the personality just by giving it a name. Secondarily, you're going to want to think about what your culture is. If you're a financial institution or a bank, you're going to want your bot to be a little more formal. If not, a lot of us like our bots to be a little snarky and have a little bit of, have a little fun with the conversation that you're having. This offers us a different opportunity than your knowledge-based articles are going to offer. A bot can have some personality. It is a conversation that someone's expecting. So you can start to play with that a little bit. But make sure it reflects your culture. And then last but not least in this first part, make sure your bot's polite. When your bot gets it wrong, your bot should say it's sorry. When somebody thanks the bot should say you're welcome. There's just some politeness that we kind of expect from any regular conversation, and you want your bot to be the same. Then you're going to want to talk a little bit about your channels for escalation. You're going to want to talk about what happens when the bot can't get it right. oftentimes we're implementing a bot in conjunction with implementing chat because that's an important piece of it, or implementing SMS messaging, because you don't want them to necessarily just get stuck on the bot and they can't get an answer. They don't have any other place to go. So you got to think about what you're going to do. Are we going to go to an agent afterwards? Are we going to keep them in a loop with the bot? How do we let them break out of it? I think best practice, we would tell you, you should always give them some way to get to an agent easily. But if an agent's not available, we also have to think about what we're going to do there. Are we going to log a case? Are we going to tell them to come back tomorrow? What are the things that we're going to do? And again, best practice, I think, is that we always take the information in somehow and go to one of those more asynchronous channels, like email or SMS from there. Third, define your success. This is a hard one, especially at the very beginning of your bot project. What does it mean to be successful? But let's make some guesses and let's do a little bit of math and figure out what we think we can do with a bot. Is it going to deflect a certain number of chat requests? Is it going to deflect a certain number of calls? Do we expect to see improvements in our customer satisfaction because customers are getting answers more quickly? Let's make some guesses. Let's say what we think our success factors will be, and we will measure throughout the project to make sure that we're getting it right. And then fourth, and I've said this before, you're going to hear this probably 4 more times from me before we're done, iteration is key. Optimize and improve your bot from beginning to end. We generally guide our customers to start with a single intent, one thing that you're trying to do right. We generally tell our customers to start with a menu-driven process rather than a natural language process, and then iterate yourself to both of those things. So from a single intent to multiple intents, and then from menu-driven to natural language, we iterate our way there. And you cannot build a bot without some iteration, because in the end, you're going to find out all the ways your bot misunderstands your customers very quickly. And then we're going to react to those. And the tools that Salesforce has given us are fantastic, that let us take those misunderstandings and then turn them into intents for our customers. And so our bot's just going to get smarter and smarter as we work with the customers to train the bot to where it's supposed to go. So as PolSource, we built a number of bots here. You can see some of our customer examples. 211 San Diego is a great one. 211s, if you're not familiar, I wasn't very familiar before working through this project. We all know what 411 is. I know 311 is for getting some government services. Then you get to 211. This is for community information. This is to hook people up with information about the San Diego community. What we've done with 211 is build a bot that is able to handle a good number of those requests, the most common requests, before it even gets to an agent, so somebody can actually ask their questions and get their community information right away. We built a relatively simple deflection bot at Gap. What it does is handle some of those simple early requests where somebody asks a question, and then we can tell them this is the best channel to get information about that question. One of the ones I'm most proud of is the Dreamforce bot. So for Salesforce, for the last few years, we've been working with Salesforce to help build out the engagement center at Dreamforce. So that includes everything Service Cloud. But as part of that, we built a Dreamforce bot. It was built within 6 weeks. It includes personalization and integration, so all the kind of fun bells and whistles of a bot. If you ask that bot to help you find your next session or even the nearest washroom, it could help you. It also integrated with your phone's mapping. So if you said, here's, you said, I need to get to my next session, it knew what your next session was, and it said, let me pull that up in the map for you so you could navigate. If you've never been to Dreamforce, it's sometimes very complicated to navigate the 6 or 7 blocks that Salesforce has taken up to get through Dreamforce. So it helps quite a bit there. So we're proud of the success that we've had in some of these cases, but let me show you one real specific example. Now, I'm disappointed I can't give you the name of the customer, so I'm gonna try not to let that slip. I'll do my best. As we go through this, let me tell you a little bit about who they are. They're one of the world's largest staffing agencies. They do specialized staffing. So they essentially connect employers with potential employees, people who are looking for a job. And they are neither. They are not the company that has the jobs. They are neither the company that has the employees. They are simply that kind, or not simply, they are the man in the middle sort of who takes the requests and hooks those people up together. So they do a lot of work with both the employers and the job seekers. They had a goal. They wanted to do a modern version of deflection. Most customers that we come across that want to do a chatbot have already implemented a knowledge base, so they have some form of deflection. But they wanted to do a more exciting version of deflection, and they were seeing that that their knowledge base wasn't necessarily being used in all the cases. So we worked with them to handle the top 6 or so interactions, the 6 or so things that people were doing most often, and they wanted to help drive users to their website, show their users how to use the website, so that it wasn't necessarily that they came to the chatbot every time. It was more like the chatbot was kind of giving them a tour of where they could go. And then most important for these guys was that they wanted to be able to continue to iterate. So they were looking to track and analyze the things that they were doing. And so we did that by tagging events right within Google Analytics for them. So they had, in fact, they have kind of data in both places. They have data in Salesforce's tools and in the Google Analytics tools. So if they wanted to look at it from the web journey that somebody went on, they had that. If they wanted to look at it from the chatbot back, they could do it that way as well. So they have data in both places, and data was a key to this particular customer. So as far as the solution that we talked about with them was, one, they wanted a very specific look and feel. They liked the way Salesforce looked out of the box, but they had some things that they were like, I would like it to look just like this. And it was very nice that we had kind of a carte blanche. We didn't have to rebuild the chat window in order to make their styling concerns work. We made some specific tweaks to both the CSS and using the tools that Salesforce gives you out of the box. We were able to get the look and feel that they're looking for. Second, they wanted to be able to offer chat in the normal way where you click a button and you're starting to chat with a customer, what we call reactive chat, but also do proactive thinking for 35 seconds. They wanted to pop up a proactive chat that said, hey, we have somebody who would be willing to talk to you right now. Is that something you'd be interested in doing? They also wanted to populate several fields on the chat transcript for later analysis. So like I said, they have data in both Google Analytics and in Salesforce. Some of the data they had in Salesforce were about the customer's journey on the website already. Where have they been? What kind of computer are they using? What page were they on when they started the chat? How long had they been there? That kind of stuff gets populated right in the chat transcript. And so we can report on all of that later, including whether it was a proactive or a reactive chat. So we can say, how did our proactive chat invitations work? How well were we able to answer those questions? And then they also wanted to make sure that they were keeping customers engaged or keeping their users engaged. So we did a simple customization here to make it so that the bot automatically prompts people when they're inactive. So if you haven't talked to the bot in a while, the bot kind of says, are you sure? Are you done? Are we still talking? And we found that was a very good customization to do to the bot. So let's see how it would look in kind of from beginning to end. A very typical conversation. You can see the bot, starts with just, what can I do for you? But then starts with a menu. Are you looking for a job? Or are you looking to hire? So this lets us, under the covers here, there's actually 2 different chatbots. There's the job seeker bot and the employer bot. And so when you click these, when you pick between hire and looking for a job, it actually branches you off to 2 different bots. Now, the customer has no idea that the bot's actually changing, and it's not going to change the personality of the bot or the name of the bot or the avatar. It's just under the hood that keeps things a little more organized underneath, technically speaking, in the Salesforce engine. As you keep going, he says, where are you would be the kind of the next question that we actually skipped a frame here, but where are you? And he says he's in California. Great. And he says, I'm pulling up the page for you. The bot says, I'm pulling up the page for you. And what's happening behind the scenes is we are actually sending a directive to the browser to say, go ahead and switch pages and move to the California hiring page for the user. That's a little mini customization we did to hide that message and pass that as part of the chat messages. So the agent can actually switch the browser's page as part of this chatbot. Then we ask him whether he'd like to be notified of any new job openings that are posted in the area. If they say yes, within Salesforce, to let them know that notifications are necessary. And then let me pull that page up for you. We actually switch them to the notifications page so they can see it. We thank them for sending the alerts and then ask them if there's anything else we can help with. As always, we make it very easy for the agent, for them to get to an agent. And as in the version you're seeing here, as you can see, it's very menu driven. A lot of these, you see the boxes, all the hire, look for a job, yes, no, search for open jobs. This was an early iteration where we did it, like I say, without the natural language. So we did this as mostly menu driven with a small amount of natural language processing. But this bot's actually been somewhat converted to some natural language processing already, and it will continue to sort of iterate towards that natural language processing as things go. So we're very proud of this quote from Hao Dong. Hao is one of PolSource's product managers. He's, technical architects. He's a Salesforce technical architect. He's one of the bot experts at Salesforce. And he had some really nice things to say. The great thing for us is we've been lucky to be able to partner with Salesforce on a lot of these and use resources like Hao to assist us as we go through to make sure that we're building out bots in the best way and best practice way as well. So for those of you who are on our webinar today, there's a couple offers I want to give you from PolSource. You've picked up a couple tips along the way. Surely this has not been an exhaustive everything you might ever want to do with bots, but we certainly wanted to give you some things that we knew as we went. But the two offers we're willing to give, we're offering to our participants today are this. One, we have a bot readiness assessment that we will run for free for you. So what this is we will talk to you, we do a little bit of interviewing with you, talk a little bit about your goals and the things that you're trying to do. And at the end, we'll give you a summary of findings, some process flow diagrams of what you were doing before the bot and what it will look like after the bot, and some recommendations for a scope of doing an implementation of a bot. Secondarily, and as Kyra kind of started things off for us, we're obviously in a strange time for all of us. We've built a crisis response app with a chatbot that we are implementing for free for any of you, including the ability to connect to your workforce, identify and support their needs. So it's a way to sort of track who's feeling not well, who's had contact with somebody who's sick. We will do this again. We'll do the implementation for free. It'll install in your new org, in a brand new org in hours. If you want to put it on your site, on your org, we can have some conversations around that as well. But either one of these would be a great way to take kind of the next step into bots and get yourself some early understanding of kind of how things work. Our crisis response bot is mostly packaged together, so it's a good way to start and kind of learn some things there. But our bot readiness assessment, if you have some ideas around what you'd like to do with a bot, that's a great way to get an understanding of what's the project going to look like, how long will it take, and what are the things that I need to be considering before I get started. All right, so I think that sort of wraps up where we are today. That for the package portion, but at this point, let's talk a little bit about your questions.
Great, thanks a ton, Dave. Really appreciate that a lot. Our first question is, can the chatbot transfer to live agent chat or phone and vice versa? And can we push a phone call to a chatbot? And again, I'll also open this up. Please, if you have questions and you're attending, please feel free to send those in via the chat, and we'll get them answered right there.
Yeah, so we have, with Gap, we did push people to phone, but that's a pretty strong way of saying occasionally the bot will get themselves to a place where we know that the bot can't handle it, and a chat agent can't handle it either. So the bot will sometimes tell the customer or the user, you're going to have to call this phone number if you want to do what it is you're looking to do. We have seen some implementations where we do like a click to call, where you get, a little bit easier implementation where to get to a call, or even click to get a call is also possible, where you could do that. I don't think you're going to find very often, though, that customers would like to go to the phone after a chatbot. In most cases, a customer they came to that digital channel because they want to stay in a digital channel. So in most cases, to the chat agent, the live chat agent, or if your chatbot is answering SMSs, they're going to want to do it via SMS, or if it's WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, they're going to want to stay in that channel more often than not. So that's what we find that's the most common direction that you're heading. So the answer is absolutely yes. You can transfer to a live chat agent. You could transfer to a live agent in SMS, or a live agent in WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger. You can do it in all of those channels. You can transfer to somebody human. And our best practice is that you ought to make that easy for your customers.
Great, thanks, Dave. Got another question here about how much human chatbot taxonomy training is involved for adopting the bot.
Yeah, so we've done some things to try and make it a little easier to build out what they call utterances. So if you're thinking of a chatbot, there are two major concepts in the chatbot. There are intents, that is what the customer or what the user wants to do. And then there are utterances. What are the things that somebody says that mean that they want to do X? Let me give you an example. The intent would be order status. I want to get my order status. But a user might say, tell me about my order. Where's my order? Where's my stuff? Where's my thing? My package hasn't arrived. Can you tell me where my package is? Where's my shipment? There's a lot of different ways to say, I really want to know the status of my order. So that's where we built, for instance, on that particular one, that's where a retail bot comes in. A retail bot already has some of those utterances baked in to get you to an order status intent. But there are some tips and tricks we can give you along the way as well to try and help build out utterances for something that we haven't seen before. Salesforce's guidance is that you need about 150 utterances to start on an intent, to start natural language processing. That's their kind of magic number. Between us, I think it might even be a little higher than that before you have what I would consider a well-trained natural language bot. We think the best way to do that is to legitimately, in a very short period of time, work with a small committee and have everybody talk a little bit, just whiteboard out what are some of the things that you might say to get to this intent. And then we mix and match those things like, I want, I need, I would like, will you please, can you? We take all of those and then put on the back end of that, give me my order, find me my order, give me order status, find out the status of my order. So you mix and match those in a number of utterances that all kind of play together to get you where you need to go. And then secondarily, you also, sorry, James, you also want to make sure that you plan for some amount of testing with your bot where you're going to throw some people at it who weren't involved in building it, so they can throw some utterances at it that we didn't come up with. And that's going to help train your bot right at the beginning. And then the best part is, then your customers get on and they train your bot a third time that says, these are the things that none of us came up with, but we learn all that and we train that model with really straightforward. I mean, when you see the tools, they're really really easy to kind of start through that model building and training that bot out as you go.
And thanks for that feedback, Dave. Here's the next question that may dovetail into that. The question is around how self-manageable is this process? And this person's asking, is there a structure or template that's the start of the bot, more or less? How can they then be self-reliant without having to call, I guess, maybe places like PolSource after they've got the bot up and running?
Yeah, well, and so this is where I'd say, when we do a project and we always include some knowledge transfer in there. And when I say knowledge transfer, our goal at the end of the project is for us to turn the keys to the car over to you. We love building for you. We love working with you to understand your requirements and help you implement in a quick and timely manner. That's what we do. And you're coming to us because we have some expertise and we've done this before, so we have some experience to help you navigate some of the landmines as you go. But in the end, it's not my chatbot, it's your chatbot. And so I want to hand that over to you. And when I do, I'm going to hand you over not just the keys, but some conversation around how are you going to manage this going forward? How simple are the tools? The answer is they're relatively simple. They're straightforward tools if you know what you're doing, to kind of, especially on that utterances and all of that, to kind of understand how to classify and reclassify the utterances that are coming into your bot and train it. But really, it gets very self-sufficient after, let's say, 100-ish, 150-ish users have already come in and touched it. Then you have a pretty good feel that it's going to go pretty well. And then it's just a maintenance. Early on, maybe you're going to do maintenance. You're going to check in once a week or every 2 weeks to check and see how your bot's doing. And then after that, it's maybe monthly. You're just going to check in, double check that here are the utterances we heard. And some of them you're going to just say, like, I don't even understand what this means. No, of course, my bot didn't. But then there's some that you're going to say, I've never seen this one. That's a good way to say that. I'm going to classify that correctly. It's all as you've used Salesforce before, you understand it's all relatively graphically interfaced. It's, the tools are built for clicks, not code. It's not here to be hard to understand or hard to manage. It is built to be managed by business users.
Excellent. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that feedback. We've got another question here around once a chatbot transitions to a live agent, what kind of integrations are typical with quick text or canned response?
Sure. So generally when we pass off, it's not a quick text per se. Generally when we pass off to an agent, we'll have the bot sort of, sign off. We'll have the bot say, all right, I'm passing you to an agent. Here's what you need to know. And then your agent will have that immediate, the same thing that happens in your live chats. If you're doing it without a bot, you'll have your agent have their customized greeting. Thank you for contacting us. I'm Kyra. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll have the bot tell you that they have passed the transcript on to the agent, which is true. The agent will see immediately everything that the person's talked to the bot about already, so they can read up on the transcript. Occasionally, we will add a quick text for the agent as well that says, well, it looks like you've had quite a conversation with the bot before we got here. Give me a second to read that transcript so I can catch myself up. Sometimes we'll do that because occasionally that transcript can be 100 lines long, and we want to just give that agent a minute to catch their breath and read that transcript. We don't want the person to have to repeat themselves. We all know, we've all done it as a customer, and we all know how frustrated our customers get when they have to repeat themselves. I already told you my account number. I already told you my order number. Please don't ask me again. You won't have to do any of those things. If they told the chatbot their order number, then you already have it.
Excellent. Question here around user experience design. What does it look like, Dave? I think you've kind of touched upon a little bit with giving the bot its own personality and things of that nature, but can you speak to that at a high level about the UI experience for
Yeah,
chatbot?
As far as, there's a couple different thoughts, UI means kind of different things to different people. UI means different things to different people, but we have, a lot of options to customize the look and the feel, if that's what we're talking about. So we have options to, make the banner different and customize the icon that the chatbot uses. You certainly have all your color palette choices, so we can have the bubbles of the chatbot look a different color than the user. So for the true user experience, what the user can do, the sky's the limit. I mean, the chatbot is a tool, so we can configure it a number of different ways to handle a number of different intents. So generally, the way I would recommend we approach this, and when we all talk together, if we do a bot assessment together, the first several questions I'm going to ask you are, what are the things that people contact your contact center for? What are the things that, what are the things we're trying to deflect? And what ability do we have to take that first thing? If 40% of your people contact your contact center to do X, that's the one we want to hit first. Let's get that one first, and then we'll go to the one that does 25%. And the only time I'd ever ask you to do something opposite of that, let's say do the 25 instead of the 40, is if the 25 is low-hanging fruit, it's easy to do, and we don't have to do 3 integrations to get it done. Then maybe we do the 25% first and then do the 40 second. But those are kind of the factors that we're going to bake into it. But as far as what the user can try, what are the different intents that the bot can handle, we should just keep building on. Like I say, start with one, build that out well, then add the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the 10th one, and eventually your bot's answering all your questions and you don't need agents anymore. That's maybe a little optimistic.
Great, thanks, Dave. We've got a question here. Do you store any data, transcripts, intents, metadata, et cetera, or is everything stored in the Salesforce instance?
So as far as it being stored in the Salesforce instance, the answer is yes, it's stored in the Salesforce instance. We have lots of customers who move their chat transcripts into other analysis tools as well, their data lakes, their data warehouses, in order to analyze them in different ways. Now, is that necessary? The answer is, it depends on how you like to analyze your data. Salesforce, you can certainly point your Einstein analytics at your chat transcripts, and you can start to slice and dice them a lot of different ways there as well. But a lot of folks are looking for patterns in the conversations. Some people are even doing sort of sentiment analysis to say, is this a happy customer, an unhappy customer? I would recommend you do whatever you do if you're doing chat already, whatever you're doing with chat transcripts, you should treat the chatbot like another chat transcript. And so if you're moving those into your data lake, your data warehouse, keep doing that. If you don't have a data warehousing strategy, or you just don't care to have chat transcripts in your data warehouse, you've always got them in Salesforce. You've got access to them, and you can analyze them a number of different ways. Besides the data that we're collecting alongside the chat transcript for the staffing agency we were looking at earlier, things like what page they came from, how long they'd been on the site, whether they were an employee or an employer. Those things are all kind of baked right into the chat transcript as individual fields that you can, do data analysis on the same way you would any data in Salesforce. Hope that helped.
I think it definitely does. There's a question here. I think it kind of relates back into something that you had asked earlier. So, as companies are setting up their chatbots, what tools are available to catch like a failed chat? Obviously, after a customer launches it, there's going to be probably more failed chats than there will 6 months from that point. What's a good practice for customers to be able to help in those early months, if you will?
Yeah, so I think there's two things. There's an automatic tool. It's already built. They call it the model management within the bot. It is a page you go to when you're in Salesforce within the bot itself, and you go to the model management. It tells you all the utterances that failed, or not even failed necessarily. Sometimes they're even going to tell you, I thought this utterance was this intent, and then you have the ability to reclassify that and push it to another intent. The second thing I would do, and I would recommend to you when you're building a bot, is to look at every especially early on, look at every bot interaction that went to an agent. And if you're doing case management, chat management correctly, or even if you're not, I would recommend you start doing this, is you're doing disposition analysis on your chat transcripts, so that when the chat completes, your agent is saying, this is what this person was here to do. So I keep using, I do a lot of work in retail, so I apologize. Order status is on top of my brain. But if the agent characterizes this as order status, right, and you have an order status intent in your bot, we want to look and see why that order status didn't get the order status from the bot. And is there something we need to add to the bot so that that intent satisfies the customer? That's a tough one to do, but that's the analysis I would expect to happen. You can do that free form. You could certainly like go through it and say, okay, I looked at the chat transcript, I looked at the chat bot transcript, and I compared them to see kind of on it. But I think the other thing I would tell you is don't be disheartened right away, because customers do order status in your bot and then ask to talk to an agent and ask for the same order status. You are retraining your customers as much as anything, and they want to double check that the bot told them the truth. So there are customers who are just not going to believe the bot the first information. They ask the agent for information. The more times that customer gets the same information from your bot that it got from the agent, the less likely they are going to transfer to the agent. And for some folks, for some of us out there, we're just skeptics, and we want to hear it from a real person once just to make sure that we heard it. And so that's why double down on the most important thing that you can do when building out your bot is make sure it's giving the right information. Don't let your agents to give better information than the bot, or people aren't going to use your bot. Make sure that the bot has the same information that the agents have.
Great feedback, Dave. We've got about a minute left. This last question we'll take here I think it's a pretty good one. Is it possible for a chatbot to recognize a previous chat by the same customer? If so, is it possible for the bot to ask if the inquiry is related to the same inquiry? If these are both possible, can you insert the previous conversation into the new conversation?
Yeah, Ryan, I love that question. I'll be honest with you. I have not done this, so I don't have like a, yes, I've done this for this customer, and so I know the answer is yes. But absolutely possible. Thinking through it, you're gonna watch me kind of solution on the fly. Thinking through it, we could very easily add a field to the contact record, and the chatbot has complete access to the, or not complete. It's actually not. It's definitely not complete access to the data in Salesforce. It can be. It's subject to the same field rules that anyone else is, field permissions, right? So we determine what fields in what objects the chatbot has access to. But giving the chatbot access to a field that says, this person has contacted us before, this was their last inquiry, giving them access to that data, we could absolutely say, hey, Ryan, I'm glad to hear from you. I know you contacted me last week to ask about, I'll use my standard, to ask about order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just so you know, the status of order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 today is that it's shipped to you, and here's the tracking number. Is there something else that you're actually looking for? I think if I had that experience with a chatbot, I would never call an agent again. I would that would be almost magical to see something like that happen. And technically speaking, we could 100% accommodate that. I just wanted to make sure you understood that the bot itself is also subject to the same field permissions that a user is, so that you can actually restrict the bot from having access to everything as well. If that's something you want to do, you want to make sure that the bot doesn't necessarily can't be giving out people's social security numbers. It doesn't even have access to that field.
Gotcha. Thanks for that feedback, Dave. And I think there's a few other questions too that we weren't able to get to in today's Q&A period. But what we'll do is we'll reply with the answers via email to those questions that were submitted that we weren't able to get to. Dave, if you could jump ahead to one more slide. I think we got some contact details there. Perfect. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to attend today and for joining us on our Let's Chat About Chatbots webinar. Also want to thank Kyra Wonderland from Salesforce for all of her efforts for getting this coordinated and partnering with PolSource today, as well as with Dave McCall and his efforts, and of course also with our marketing director behind the scenes, Lindsay Gadd, for all of her efforts as well. So we greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to take us up on the bot readiness assessment or the COVID-19 bot, please feel free to email PolSource at bots@polsource.com. More than happy to hop on a call and talk to you more in detail with Dave and myself. So again, thank you all greatly for taking the time to join us today. Hope you found today's session to be informative, and we look forward to speaking with all of you soon. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.